Hello, it is 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition for tonight headlines. So we have the great majority of the Egyptian pilgrims are in Mecca for Hajj 2023. Consultation workshop for the exploitations of the ecosystem services and transition towards a blue economy project. For the international scene, a new record of 110 million people forcibly displaced. Welcome to our newsroom. The United States welcomes the elections of the president of Djibouti to the head of IGAD. The United States warmly congratulated Djibouti's president Ismail Omar Guelleh on his elections to the presidency of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD. At the IGAD summit held on June 12 in Djibouti, said the spokesman of the U.S. State Department, Matthew Miller. Mr. Matthew Miller went on to praise the regional organization's ongoing effort to mobilize effective responses to a crisis in the Horn of Africa, including the ongoing drought and other natural disasters. We also recognize and welcome IGAD's increasingly active role in conflict resolutions in the region, as he continued. The U.S. looks forward to continue to work closely with President Guelleh and IGAD to promote peace and prosperity, as well as regional integration and development in East Africa, noted the U.S. State Department spokesperson in a statement. The fourth ordinary IGAD summit produced a significant series of resolutions. The 14th summit of IGAD, head of state and government, held on Mondays in Djibouti, produced a series of important resolutions designed to deliver rapid results on almost the major challenges facing this part of the world. Listen to this report.
At the end of the summit, IGAD announces the election of Djibouti's head of state, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, as its rotating president. The document goes on to set out the measures and decisions taken in the crucial areas of peace and security, the prevention and fight against the consequences of climate change, and the adoption of reforms designed to increase the organization's level of autonomy and responsiveness. In terms of peace and security, IGAD's current major preoccupation is the crisis in Sudan, says the communique, noting that the organization has set up a new presidential quarter to meditate on this issue. The four heads of state involved in this affair are called upon to succeed in the principle of a rapid meeting with the two main actors in the Sudanese crisis. Their mediation must also lead to a definitive opening of humanitarian corridors and talk with a view to a negotiated settlement, it is also specified. According to the IGAD communique, the regional organization has also added the Somali issue to its list of major peace and security concerns. In this respect, IGAD is in favor of lifting the arms embargo on Somalia with a view to increasing the country's capacity to defeat the Al-Shabaab terrorists. Preventing the consequences of climate change was another area of deliberation on which IGAD also adopted strategic decisions. This area of reform was essentially marked by the establishment of a climate security coordination mechanism with the African Union and the United Nations, and by the implementation of a global regional strategy aimed at increasing the level of resilience of IGAD countries to the cycles of distress and painful episodes specific to this region under the effect of floods, droughts, and inter-community conflicts born of scarcity of resources. In its declaration relayed in the final communique, IGAD also reported on a round of reforms adopted in the field of modernizing its internal structure. These decisions are intended to provide an administrative, legal, and financial framework that will ensure the organization's autonomy and continuity. The adoption of a treaty, a pledge of procedural clarity based on the principle of modern legal instruments, and the introduction of a greater subscription by member countries to the organization's dues are the most emblematic reforms endorsed in this area linked to the improvement of IGAD's structural arrangements.
The majority of Djibouti pilgrims have already arrived in Mecca to perform the Hajj. Here is a report on the pilgrims to the Holy Land and the reception arrangement put in place by the Ministry of Muslim Affairs and Waqf through the Hajj 2023 Organizing Committee. Listen for more details.
50 out of 1,400 registered pilgrims for this year's pilgrimage have arrived in Mecca to fulfill the fifth pillar of Islam for the current Hijri year of 1444. The members of the Hajj organizing committee dispatched by the Ministry of Muslim Affairs and Waqfs have taken all necessary measures to facilitate the pilgrims in their journeys to the Holy Lands, their stays, and the performance of Umrah in the major pilgrimage. Tonight, the Hajj organizing committee welcomes a group of 300 pilgrims, mostly women and young people, who will be settled and, after a short break, taken to Mecca to perform the Umrah ritual. On this occasion, we have gathered a statement from the Vice President of the organizing committee established by the Djiboutian Ministry of Muslim Affairs and Waqfs. The Vice President of the organizing committee and leader of the group based in the Saudi city of Mecca stated that over 70% of them have arrived in Mecca similarly to perform the Umrah ritual before the pilgrimage. In his statement, the number 2 of the Hajj organizing committee emphasized that no effort had been spared to enable Djiboutian to fully fulfill the obligation of Hajj in these holy places. They are staying in the city center and shelters are responsible for bringing them to Al Haram Mosque for every prayer. We are waiting the last 2 flights and soon we will begin the Hajj ritual, said the Vice President. He finally indicated that our pilgrims are devoted to invoking God and seeking His success and blessings for their families in the country. The Djiboutian are residing near Al Difaya market in the middle of the city of Mecca, which is less than 3 kilometers from Al Haram Mosque. They are accommodated in furnished and air-conditioned apartments to provide them with favorable conditions for carrying out their Hajj activities under sweltering heat reaching 45 degrees. One of them, Muhammad Rable Auled, said that they arrived in the sacred city of Mecca yesterday evening around 3 a.m. They were quickly settled in their hotels and prominently taken to the sacred house of Allah. With the assistance of the Hajj organizing committee, they performed the Umrah ritual. He expressed very proudly and prayed to God to bless their efforts. As for Fatuma Hassan Hirsi, said that she, since her arrival in Medina, they have been warmly received by the Hajj organizing committee. Thank God, she stated, they had the opportunity to visit and pray at the mosque of our messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. Upon arriving in the Saudi city of Mecca, they were welcomed with open arms and performed the Umrah ritual with the religious support of scholars, she added. Thank God, we pray that Allah the Lord grants us peace and prosperity to our people and our nation, she concluded. The last groups of Djiboutian pilgrims are expected to arrive at the end of the week to perform the Umrah ritual before the Grand Hajj, which will begin on June 26, 2023. The streets of the Saudi city of Mecca are bustling with pilgrims from around the world who come to fulfill the Hajj of 2023.
Djibouti's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, and his counterpart from South Sudan, Dow Malek, signed today on the sidelines of the 14th Ordinary Summit of IGAD, Head of State and Government, a general cooperation framework agreement aimed at the strengthening and deepening bilateral relations between the two countries. This agreement, which comes at a crucial time for the region, testifies for the firm commitment of the government of Djibouti and South Sudan to promoting peace, stability, and economic development in the Horn of Africa. It represents an important milestone in relations between the two countries and opens up a new prospect for mutually beneficial cooperation. This General Cooperation Framework Agreement marks the beginning of a new era of solid partnership between Djibouti and Southern Sudan. The Minister of Defense in charge of relation with Parliament, His Excellency Hassan Omar Mohamed Burhan, and the Chief of the Armed Forces, General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim, received the new Director of the East Africa Standby Force, Brigadier General Paul Kahira Njema, on a courtesy visit to the Djibouti Army Directorate General of the International Relations this morning. The meeting began with the customary greetings and military introductions. At the end, the ISAF director directly praised the Republic of Djibouti's significant contribution to the ISAF, which he described as exemplary. He also pointed out that Djibouti's financial contribution was among the first to be made by any ISAF countries, reinforcing Djibouti's status as a regional leader. During the meeting, the Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, His Excellency Hassan Omar Mohammed Burhan, addressed the security situations in the regions, notably in Sudan and Somalia, as well as ISAF states of readiness to carry out its mandate. He wished the new director very success in carrying out his missions and reiterated Djibouti's support and backing for the improvement of the regional situation, building on the 40 sessions of the Assembly of Head of State and of IGAD member countries held in Djibouti on June 12. The meeting also emphasized the importance of peace and security for sustainable development. The Minister of Defense then called on the ISAF to strengthen its capabilities to be ready to face any security situations in the regions, to which the director of the ISAF responded by preparing Djiboutian troops for a possible intervention in Sudan. In addition to the director, the ISAF delegation also included Colonel Lilian Shingoli, legal advisors, and Inshad Husseini, chief of the staff of the director. On the Djiboutian side, the chief of staff, the chief of the defense staff, Colonel Mohammed Qayad Gelle, the MINDEF cabinet, and the others Djiboutian army officers attended the meeting. The Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, in collaboration with the United Nations Environment Programs and the regional organizations for the conservation of the environment of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, PERSGA, organized today at the People's Palace a consultation workshop for the implementation of the preparatory phase of the project exploitations of services, ecosystems, and transitions towards a sustainable blue economy of the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The workshop was attended by the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mohammed Abdul Qadir Mustahalem, the Somali Minister of State for the Environment and Climate Change, Dr. Aden Ibrahim, and the PERSGA representative, Dr. Ahmed Khalil. The workshop was attended by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development, Aden Hassan, and numerous delegations from Somalia and member countries of the regional organizations for the conservation of the environment of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, with its 314 kilometers of coastline stretching from the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean via Bab el-Mandeb Strait and its energy and fishery resources. The Republic of Djibouti enjoys a significant maritime capital, benefiting from a long history of maritime activities that generated a considerable share of GDP and employment. The workshop was led by the international consultants from PERSGA and national experts. The representative of the regional organizations for the conservation of the environment of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden welcomes the efforts made by members of the regional organization for the conservation of the environment of the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. For his part, the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development, Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa Halam, said that with its 314 kilometers of coastline stretching from Red Sea to the Indian Ocean, so the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and its energy fishery resources, the Republic of Djibouti enjoys a significant maritime capital, benefiting from a long history of maritime activities that generate a considerable share of GDP and employment. The Minister of Social Affairs, Solidarity, Ulufa Ismail Abdo, took part in the 16 sessions of the Conference of State Parties to the Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disability, held from June 13 to 15 at the United Nations headquarters in New York. This important annual event brings together representatives of government, international organizations, and civil society organizations, and this year's theme is harmonizing national policies and strategy with the Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disability. The 16 sessions of the Conference of State Parties to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability is a crucial platform created to advance the agenda of inclusion and equal rights for people with disabilities. Issued addressed this year's include access to sexual and reproductive health services, digital accessibility, representation of underrepresented disability group. The Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity, Ulufa Ismail Abdo, accompanied by strong delegation, including the Director of the National Agency for Persons with Disability, Douali Saeed Mahmoud, reaffirmed the Djibouti's government's firm commitment to the rights of people with disability. Ms. Ulufa Ismail Abdo also highlighted the persistent challenges such as the recurrent drought in the Horn of Africa. Listen to the Minister.
The Minister of Social Affairs and Solidarity, Madam Ulufa Ismail Abdo, emphasized the firm commitment made by the Djiboutian government towards the rights of people with disabilities, highlighting the policies and vision of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Gelle. These policies and vision are based on not leaving anyone on the sidelines of development. In this regard, she noted that since ratifying the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the government of Djibouti has made significant institutional and legal progress in promoting and protecting the rights of this important segment of society. Furthermore, positive discrimination policies have been adopted in the employment of persons with disabilities in 2020 and the National Disability Strategy implemented by the National Agency for Persons with Disabilities in 2021, along with the establishment of a Disability Support Fund in partnership with the agency in 2023. The Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity added, despite these major obstacles, we affirm the government's desire to move forward in promoting and protecting the rights of persons with disabilities.
The Secretary General of the Ministry of Social Affairs Solidarity, Ms. Amina Ahmed Warsama, chaired the validation workshop for the development of a national strategy for non-contributory social protections for the period 2023-2027. The workshop, which took place on Monday, June 12, was attended by numerous participants, including the representative of the World Food Programs, Ms. Maninjoro, and the representative of the United Nations Development Program, Emma Anu. The workshop provided an opportunity for sectoral and development partners of the Ministry of Social Affairs Solidarity to contribute to the reflections and development of the new strategy. Participants were given a progress report on the strategy currently under development and then divided into 4 groups to work on the strategies for main team. The new national non-contributory social protection strategy and aims to establish an equitable, inclusive, and resilient social protection system that meets the needs of vulnerable populations. On the morning of Wednesday, June 2023, a workshop was held at the People's Palace to launch the slums upgrading and integrated urban development project for the Jagabulduk area, the neighborhood 7, as part of the Zero Slum programs under the auspices of the Ministry of Town Planning and Housing, organized by the Agency for the Rehabilitation of Urban and Social Houses, Arulos. This high-level workshop was chaired by the Minister of Cities, Urban Planning and Housing, Amina Abdi Aden, and attended by the Minister of Economy, Finance and Industry, Ilyas Musa Dawali, the Minister of Interior, Saeed Nur Hassan, the Minister of Women and Family, Muna Osman Aden, and the Minister Delegate in charge of Decentralization, Qasim Harun Ali. In addition to the ministers, the workshop was attended by a delegation from the Islamic Development Bank and senior officials from the department, including Arulos Director General Abdurrahman Ali Ahmed, the Director of DATU, Mr. Habib Ibrahim Muhammad, as well as technical partners and networks concessionaires. The project, financed by the Islamic Development Bank, is part of the implementation of the National Islam Clearance Program, Program Zero Bidonville, initiated by the President of the Republic. The project involves opening up access roads to improve urban mobility, building social and commercial facilities, rehabilitating precarious housings, using sustainable materials, and supporting community development for young people and women. In his speech, the regional directors of the Islamic Development Bank based in Uganda stressed that the Zero Shanty Downs program implemented in Djibouti is a flagship and model program that should be inspired and followed by African and regional countries. He also reassured the ministry and his team of the IDP's readiness and support to accompany the project. In his speech, the Minister of Finance outlined the ins and outs of this project. Listen to the Minister.
Finance outlined the ins and outs of this project. It will enable, as he declared, to move up a gear by operationalizing the head of state's visionary policy on decent housing through the implementation of the National Housing Strategy. These noble objectives are, he added, to improve the living conditions of our inhabitants in precarious neighborhoods and then to provide them with access to basic social services. These long-term objectives will enable us to restore the urban image of our capital. This will provide good living conditions for our residents. Emphasize it will be a real barometer of our country's economic health, as job creation will be the order of the day. This titanic project, which will make more than one Hercules stand back, requires the congregation of a common ground that of working together, because it is the responsibility of all of us.
And now listen to the Minister of Syria's Urban Planning and Housing, His Excellency Amina Abdi Aden.
District 7, known as one of the 13 neighborhoods identified as precarious housing areas in the need of restructuring, has undergone comprehensive evaluations and consultations involving multiple ministries and the local community. Today marks the culmination of these efforts as a consensus has been reached regarding the necessary actions and priority areas for their intervention. The primary concern highlighted by the minister is the issue of accessibility within the neighborhoods. Efforts will be made to establish well-connected roads that ensure convenient transportation and vehicle access to residential plots. Another crucial aspect that has garnered attention is the lack of essential infrastructure and amenities in the area. The minister revealed plans to develop various facilities, including community centers, markets, recreational spaces, and playgrounds. This comprehensive approach aims to cater to the diverse needs and desires for the local population. By taking such measures, the minister and their team aim to transform District 7 into a thriving and inclusive community that addresses the pressing challenge of accessibility, flooding, and insufficient infrastructure, ultimately enhancing the overall quality of life for its residents.
On Monday, June 12, 2023, the Djibouti Coast Guard and the French Navy launched a massive search and rescue operations at sea following the disappearance of a pleasure craft last reported at Korangar. The pleasure craft with the 3 Djiboutians on board was returned from a recreational fishing trip to the Cape Frere Island, and when all contact was lost with its occupant, several patrol boats from the Djiboutian Coast Guard and the French Navy were immediately engaged in the search and rescue operation supported by radar surveillance. The operation lasted all night in very unstable weather conditions with strong winds and extremely rough seas, complicating the activities of the teams engaged in a race against the clock to bring assistance to the launch and its occupant. Fortunately, early in the morning of Tuesday, June 13, 2023, at around 8, the Djibouti Coast Guard patrol boat P6 managed to locate the pleasure craft, which had drifted into the international waters of the Gulf of Aden. The 3 occupants were unharmed, suffering only from extreme laziness and shocked by the eventful experience they had undergone. The launch and its occupants were towed safely to the fishing port. According to the initial investigations, the speedboat was the victim of the fuel shortage, which was aggravated by strong gale that caused it to drift off course. The Djibouti Coast Guard reminds seas users to respect safety measures at sea, especially during this period of strong winds, and remains at their disposal 24/7 with the toll-free emergency number 1500. For the international scene, the cyclone Biparjoy, over 14,000 people evacuated in India and Pakistan to register. Listen for more detail.
People have been evacuated in India and Pakistan as the powerful cyclone approaches. With winds of over 150 kilometers per hour, the authorities said on Tuesday, June 13, cyclone, which means disaster in Bengali, is advancing across the Arabian Sea on Tuesday and is expected to make landfall on Thursday between southern Pakistan and western India, according to the weather services.
The UN deplores new records of 110 million forcible displaced. Listen for more detail.
110 million people in the world who have been forced to flee their homes, the UN revealed on Wednesday, June 13, which sees this record number as an indictment of the state of the world. Recent fighting in Sudan has further aggravated a situation already made extraordinary in 2022 by the war in Ukraine and the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Never before have been total number of refugees fleeing their homeland or internally displaced persons reached such a level, stressed the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in its annual report.
This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us. Have a good evening.